Today I'm looking at the Lumintop GT Nano, and it's seriously tiny. It's modeled off the bigger BLF GT thrower, and that one took 18650 batteries and came with a shoulder strap. The GT Nano here looks similar, but it's smaller than a house key, as you can see here. So you might thinking that this is so small that it can't be functional right. Well, think again, keep watching the video and I'll show you. This light was provided to me for free by flashlightbrand.com. They're a newer reseller based out of China. They have also provided a discount code, which I'll have in the description below. And while you're there, you can check out my social media pages, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook pages, and even TikTok. So here is the box that it comes in, just your normal Lumintop box. On the back, they do have all the different materials that it comes in. It's available in aluminum, titanium, copper, and brass, which is what I have. And these are all the accessories you get. You get a little split ring to put on the back. You get a little carabiner and split ring to attach it. You get a USB to micro USB charging cable that's really short. You get a lanyard strap, the user manual, and then this thing, which is the recharging puck. The light uses a very, very small battery, which is included, and this is how you recharge it, and I'll talk more about that later on in that section. One note on packaging here, when I received this light, it was not sealed in plastic. Most of your raw metal lights that come in copper or brass are sealed. And I asked Flashlight Brand about this. They said they opened it to test it and make sure that it worked. I let them know that this is not a common practice. It had fingerprints on it and stuff like that. I'll probably give this a polish once I'm done with the video and just kind of take it back to how it was and let it patina then naturally. The GT Nano is based on an exact clone of the larger BLF GT, but it's just scaled down here significantly. I'm not going to go into extensive descriptions here, as the video and the pictures really show you the design elements of the light. I will note at the back, it is recessed there. Its tail stands fine. You do have the Lumintop bunny, which for some reason is still on stuff. You do have your lanyard attachment point there. It is kind of sharp. The light does separate here in the middle, and we'll get to that later on. You've got the button here that's reasonably large for the size of this light. Then you've got the bezel here, which unscrews. You've got a pretty deep reflector in there, you can see there, and then the LED. Retention, as mentioned, you've got the lanyard attachments point there, lanyard, and your attachments to put it onto your keys if you wanted to, or something like that. I'm not going to do that for this one, but you could if you wanted to. So I measured the size and weight here. The length is 54 millimeters, max diameter at the head is 24, minimum diameter on the body tube is 14 millimeters, and weight with the battery installed is only 1.74 ounces or 49.4 grams. Light is IPX8 water rated. So this is a real flashlight. It's not a gimmick. So let's talk about the LED and beam here. I've got it on the low mode, and you can see it down there. It is a Osram flat white emitter, and the model is a CSLNM1.TG. It's really a mouthful. It's a great choice here for a thrower. On my Opal meter, I measured a CCT of 7200 and a CRI of 71. Neither are really surprising here for this type of light. I don't think it looks as cold as it measures out in person, and my night shots will kind of show that. The beam pattern here isn't the most beautiful. It is a thrower. The beam isn't the most beautiful here. It's kind of what you expect out of a small thrower like this. There's some minor beam artifacts, probably going to be hard to see with my video, but hopefully the night shot show them a little bit. Really out at distance, you don't notice it much. There is a bit of PWM here. It's a light that has the ability to ramp, so that's kind of expected. It's pretty fast, and I don't have a problem with it visually or with camera, but my meter does pick it up. The driver here appears to be an unregulated driver as well, with the manual warning not to exceed 2.4 amps of draw. With the 10140 battery, this really isn't an issue. It's so small. But if you do buy the optional 10440 battery tube and throw a larger battery in, make sure that you get one with a proper maximum output so you don't risk damaging the driver. With the LED under the switch here and such a small battery by default, it's really best if you mechanically lock the light out and get rid of that. It just solves any problems, and you do that by just unscrewing the body tube here just a little bit. Official outputs are listed at 450 lumens with a throw of up to 300 meters. Okay, here are my night shots for the Lumintop GT Nano, and this is in stepped mode. It does ramp as well, but I've just got this in testing. This is step 2 out of 5. It's the first one that really shows up on the camera. Here is step 3. Starts to throw quite well. Here is step 4. It easily hits the trees across the street. That's a good probably 200 yards. Here is step 5, pretty impressive. And here is turbo. Remember, this is a tiny flashlight, 80 milliamp hour battery. You can see kind of the halo there on the fence at the beam produces. It's not the world's best beam quality, but it's pretty impressive given this thing's small size. About 450 lumens, 300 meters of throw, and it achieves that. Remember, this is a light that's just absolutely tiny. One more thing I want to show you was ramping mode. You can see it's pretty fast. Here is ramping mode on the Lumintop GT Nano. All the way up, all the way down, all the way back up. Pretty fast and usable for such a small light. With the 80 milliamp battery in this configuration, runtimes were never going to be anything impressive. That said, I feel like the maximum usable runtime for turbo of 24 minutes is decent. That doesn't mean it stays at turbo all that time, as we can see from my graph here. It does step down quite a bit. The brightest chunk of that 24 minutes lasts for the first 8 or so, as you can see in the graph, and the peak temp was 38°C after about 8 minutes. And brass here does a good job of heat dissipation. We can also see that I ran a comparison between medium and turbo here. They're somewhat surprisingly similar. For medium, I did turn into stepping mode and used 3 out of 5 modes. The GT Nano is running Narsol M firmware version 1.3, and Narsol is kind of an old firmware at this point, but something that I haven't ran into in a few years. It's nice firmware, but kind of complicated, and there's a ton of different configuration options that I won't go into depth on those, but I will link to a chart that explains them. What you need to know is that the GT Nano ships in ramping mode, and ramping mode is good and fast, and you can change it into step mode if you wish, which is how I have mine right now because that's how I tested it. Switching between them is easy. You just turn on the light, it comes on in the lowest mode, and then you click to go up. If you click and hold, you can directly go to turbo. You can long press and it'll go into a strobe. It's a nice firmware, it's just a little complex. Charging is what I wanted to talk about next, and that's what I've got here in my right hand. It comes with this, and that's because this battery is so small you wouldn't want to put it in a normal charger because you want to charge it slowly. So with the charger, you unscrew this white plastic piece here. This is the back side of the flashlight, and then you simply screw them together. Once together, you can put in your micro USB, and your top indicator here tells you your charge status. Red is charging, green when charged, and that's how it works. If you've got the 10440 tube, you could still use this. It'll be slow, but you could do it. You could also use a charger like a VapeCell S4 Plus that I've reviewed because you can manually charge at a slow speed of 250 milliamp hours. So in this configuration with the 80 milliamp battery, you want to charge it very slow, and it does this at 0.9 amps. So charging here takes about 90 minutes to put in 80 milliamp hours. Pretty slow, and that's good. And low voltage protection was measured at 3.3 volts and full at 4.14. So my final thoughts are a lot of tiny flashlights are gimmicks, but the Lumintop GT Nano is the real deal. I'm frankly amazed at how well this thing actually works. It throws an impressive distance, especially for its size. Most of the time throwers are larger because the large head works better for throwers, but here it's relatively small given the light's overall size. That said, with the 80 milliamp battery, your run times are pretty dang short, and for that reason, it's a little bit of a gimmick. You're not going to take this on a hike, or you're not going to depend on this for a long time use. So for that reason, spend the few extra dollars and make sure you get yourself the 10440 tube so you can probably quadruple your run times and increase the usability of the light. Again, I've got that discount code at flashlightbrand.com. I'll have that in the description below. And while you're there, let me know what you think of the Lumintop GT Nano below. And I appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.